20 of the Acts of 21, this meeting will be conducted in person and via remote means in accordance with applicable law. This means that members of the public body, as well as members of the public, may access this meeting via person or via virtual means. In-person attendance will be at the address above that I mentioned, which is Veterans Memorial Hall. The meeting may also be accessed remotely via the town on-demand website, which is channel 191, or dial into the meeting at 774-304-1455, enter 1428, pound, for the meeting number, and 12345 for the access code. All right. That said, Becky?
So we have a few minutes to the first public hearing. We don't have many other items to go over besides.
Why don't we take attendance? I'm sorry.
Okay.
David?
I'm here physically.
Stephen?
Stephen Chittister, present.
Roy Bishop, present.
And Ed Goodwin, present.
Okay.
Eric is absent.
Correct. Yep. We can go to administrative decisions. We have 2 sets of minutes
All right.
to review and
Right.
approve.
Yep.
The first one is the November 2nd, 2021 meeting.
Do I have a motion on the November 2nd?
I'll make a motion that we approve the November 2nd minutes as written.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second?
Yep.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Barnacle in favor.
Stephen Chittister in favor.
Roy Bishop in favor.
And Ed Goodwin in favor.
All right, second set of minutes is November 16th, 2021.
I make a similar motion for this set of minutes.
I second.
Discussion? Seeing none? All in favor?
David Barnacle in favor.
Stephen Chittister in favor.
Roy Bishop in favor.
And Ed Goodwin in favor. Thanks, Beck. All right.
Minutes, do you want to start with committee updates?
Yes. I can start with CPC. We have not had a meeting. There is no update that I can give. So,
Well, this is going to go pretty quickly because the Trails Committee was going to meet tonight, except that things got a little bit bollocksed up, and so they're not meeting until next Tuesday night. However, there is one announcement to be made routinely. January 1st, as always, Frost is sponsoring the first day hike. We will be meeting at 9 o'clock at the Old Sturbridge Village Road entrance to the parking area at the Lead Mine Trails facilities. That's 9 o'clock on January 1st. Now, remember that a year ago, or I'm sorry, 2 years ago, because we didn't have it last year due to coronavirus, there were 53 people that came on the first day hike. So this is a popular event. It also is a really great way to start the new year.
do you have a weather forecast for that day?
As a matter of fact, I do. It's going to be absolutely gorgeous.
Fantastic. And Eric is not with us. I don't think there's a late.
The
No,
next,
they haven't met. They're not meeting
Yeah.
till April, I believe.
I can read the opening statement.
Great.
I have nothing else. Did you want, is there anything else, Becky, that you wanted to cover quickly? Okay. In the interest of saving time, the Sturbridge Conservation Commission will hold all public hearings tonight for work within a wetland, water body, or resource area, and/or within the 200-foot buffer zone to a wetland, water body, or resource area in accordance with Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, MGL Chapter 131, Section 40, and associated regulations, and the Town of Sturbridge Wetland Bylaws and associated regulations. We will not be reading the newspaper ad. Prior to opening the first hearing for each project, the applicant is to submit proof of notification to abutters within 200 feet of the subject property line and proof of legal newspaper advertisement. These items are not submitted, the public hearing will not open. Additionally, prior to the start of each public hearing, we will announce the location of the project, the applicant, and the applicant's representative. If any of the visitors have not legibly signed in yet, please do. Also, if any visitors are recording this meeting, please let us know. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Ready to go, Beck?
Yep.
6:05. 6:05, we have 546 and 548 Route 15, Lot 11, Sturbridge bylaw notice of intent, construction of a single-family home and associated work. Glenn Kravosky is the environmental representative. Glenn, how you doing?
Good evening, very good, thank you.
Good.
Good. Thank you.
So I'm just gonna pull, it's hard to see back there, I'll zoom in, but I'm just gonna pull the plan up on the screen here. Glenn, you have a pointer too?
Thank you.
They also have it better, clearer in front of them, so they can kind of
Thank you.
see it there as well.
Right, thank you. This had an ANRAD submitted, it was a Brian Waterman delineation, and the ORAD is still existing. On the ORAD, it appeared that the wetland to the rear of this, approximately 200 or 180 feet away from the house possibly. If you're looking at the plan, you'll see the 200-foot local wetland buffer. So we're not in the 100-foot buffer zone for DEP, Chapter 131, Section 40, but we are within 200 feet of the wetland system under your bylaw. There was a question whether or not the wetland itself was isolated lands of the flooding. It wasn't defined on the plan, but we did go out there when we picked up the project to go, because there are some pipes showing on the plan. In the back, on the ANRAD plan, I went and looked at the pipes, and there is an outflow. Through those pipes, it's still flowing. So that became a bank, so this is bordering vegetated wetland. But again, we're over 100 feet from that, but we're within your 200-foot buffer zone, so we filed under the local wetland notice of intent bylaw. I'm not sure, my office normally sends these over, scans and sends them.
Yep, I did get those,
Okay.
yep, and I have proof of legal ad too,
Just
but I
wanna
can take the
make
paper
sure that
copies.
that's his job to take care of that, but thank you.
Glenn,
So, yes, ma'am.
I just have a question. With that wetland back there, did you look at the extent of the wet meadow below where the outfall
I did,
came
and
out?
it never showed up on your ORAD.
No, I know.
Or ANRAD.
I know.
It's small, it eventually goes into the ground, but it has
Yeah.
tussock sedge, some mostly sedge, and it's a meadow
Yeah,
with your other sensitive fern and royal fern. No pooling area to speak of in neither of these. I went back there specifically looking for vernal pool. I didn't want it to come back and bite me when I got in front of you that oh, that could be a pool, but it does drain on the wetland that we're talking about directly behind us is again a wet meadow marsh area, more wet meadow than marsh. Marsh has a little bit deeper water than a wet meadow, as you might be aware. So if it has been already defined. And
How much acreage is that involved, Glenn?
that small wetland? In viewing it, I would say that it is, I didn't measure it, but I would say it's about 75 to 100 feet long, 35 feet wide, type of thing. It's at the toe of the slope of that ledge. And to the rear of this is where that ledge starts rising up. It's a small pocket, then it rises back towards the farmhouse that's on that property, the old house. So there's a dip in the property, and somebody had used a corrugated metal pipe to drain it underneath an old chicken coop foundation, some type of larger concrete foundation with no structure left on top. And so I went to the far end to see if it was outflowing, because I did stir up the water to make sure that was flowing in, and the dirt, could have been in violation for making sediment, but I'm only kidding. I dirtied it up, it flowed in, it was a trickle, and then it flowed out. I didn't see the dirt at the far end because it's about, again, I didn't measure it, 75 feet across to get to the wetland. I went around through the Oriental Bittersweet and the multiflora rose and came out the other side, and there was water flowing out. So it appears that the pipe has been preserved by having a foundation cap, the floor of the building. So the pipe actually goes underneath the old building. The building's not there, it's just a foundation.
I don't know if that's an old, little cart road that went
It's
through
too-
there,
it's-
maybe. I wasn't sure. Do you guys remember that when we were out there? Do you remember that? You might not,
No.
yeah.
It's too, to me, it's too wide to be a cart path. It's actually quite length and width-wise. It appears to me that it was some type of building, and it's long since defunct, burnt down somewhere. When there's a dump at the far end, all their bottles and stuff, so whatever. There's a dump at the other end.
Yeah, remember when they were doing all that excavation on the other side? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that,
Mr. Chairman, at the microphone, please.
couldn't hear me, huh?
Is that okay? Me too.
So are they gonna revise the line out there?
Well, we're not doing anything over there, and, legally, technically,
know.
You had peer reviewers. I wasn't involved, so I don't want to do the ANRAD, ORAD. I don't know how somebody missed it, both Waterman and then the peer reviewer. I'm sure you had a peer reviewer look through this thing, I'd imagine, to get an ORAD. I don't know, I think I know on the Phil NATO, if there was subversion, somebody tried to hide something, and I've never seen this happen since '86, I've been in the law since '79, that Phil did say that if somebody actually deviously did something like hide things, maybe you can go back over a permit. I'm not sure if this would fall into that. There's no evidence somebody did it on purpose. And I do think it's far enough back, clearly, that it's as far back as this wetland we're talking about, so anybody up in the front still has room for a septic on the neck. So this would be standing on the road facing the old building there. It would be to the left is where it discharges out, a left back. Just like this wetland is more behind the old building and right, and that's why it affects the house to the right, standing on the road facing in, and I would call that west we're facing, yes, and right would be north, and south would be left if you're standing on the road. If 15 is generally a north-south facing road.
Okay.
I don't know if you have the old ANRAD plan,
I do.
ORAD, but it should show up on that. I don't have that one in this file.
I'm sorry, I mean, it's not relevant for this lot. It's further away from here.
It is quite a bit,
Yeah.
but it's an interesting point.
Yeah, I
Any
just hope when
comments,
they,
Becky, from you?
what's that?
Any comments from you on the lot, besides summary?
No, just what I provided in my summary. We are within, like Glenn said, the 100 to 200 foot buffer zone. They do have some added BMPs in there for driveway and roof infiltration, which we like to see. And, we went out there, we took a look at the site. I mean, it from the front, it slopes up and then it slopes back down, kind of gradual in the back, and there still will be 100 feet of vegetation between the work area and the wetland. I don't see any concerns, and I think this can be approved. My recommendation would be to close the public hearing, approve the project through the issuance of the Sturbridge Wetland Bylaw Orders of Conditions with the following conditions, our standard orders of OOC conditions. They did show in the detail a silt fence and straw wattle, but at the limit of work, they showed a construction fence. My recommendation would be to approve it with sedimentation controls in place. And then they need to install the roof and the driveway infiltration as shown on the plan. Some of the things that we've been adding in there for conditions is that they provide proper documentation of those installations by a PE, just because they do need, to be buried, and we don't typically see these till afterwards. So we do like to ask for that, including photographic documentation with that, and then just perpetual conditions for the maintenance of the stormwater drainage structures they have on site.
To that last point, Becky,
Yep.
where you're indicating that verification by a PE is to be for the installation, shouldn't it be for the installation and functioning?
Or, yeah, proper installation that it's functioning.
And
I guess, right.
functioning.
Yeah. I can add that.
Yep.
That's a good point.
Stephen, you're all set?
Yep, I'll set.
Roy?
All set?
Well, I think you need to change the name from Silver Tree Realty
Yes, sir.
to Russian Olive Tree
Because
Realty.
that is what's there.
Is there anything we can do about any of that?
Everything, I was actually proposing, if we work with the new owner of the farmhouse,
Yeah?
to do something relative to what's behind his property, that we're proposing to help him clear out that autumn olive. The Russian olive looks nearly similar to autumn olive, but this is autumn olive.
Autumn.
So autumn
A
olive?
lot of, years ago, we went over this whole
How do you tell the difference?
Well, I'm going to send you the photograph. I'll send them to Becky, and it'd be easier to describe it that way, to see the
Alright.
berry and to see the leaf.
Yeah, I can find the
Got
link
it?
online. and
Yeah.
send it to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that-
The berries are different,
There's-
and it's
m-
autumn.
Much more common in the autumn than the Russian, but even when we started talking about it 25 years ago, a lot of people, we were saying Russian, but in
Russian,
the end, we
yeah.
were straightened out by a botanist, so.
But you also indicated another invasive in the same area.
Oh, the thing is, these old farms are a mess. Multiflora rose is heavy in there,
Multiflora,
and then
you
the
said.
Oriental bittersweet is just
Yeah.
dense. To get through it is arduous, I might say, even though that we do it, but we try to look to get around because it's so dense right in front of you. It was-
Glenn, there are advantages to being thin, man.
Yeah, and also wearing chaps all the time, and I actually have on because I was just splitting wood at the end of the last job, so I didn't really bother taking them off.
Becky, we want to check
Thank you.
with the audience?
Anyone in the audience like to speak? I didn't think so. Let me see on the phone. Is there anyone on the public line who would like to speak in regards to the notice of intent for Lot 11, 546 and 548 Route 15? Just me talking back to myself there.
All right. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make a motion that we close the public hearing.
I'll second it.
Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
David Barnacle in favor.
Stephen Chittister in favor.
Roy Bishop in favor.
Ed Goodwin in favor. Do I have a motion to approve the project?
I make a motion that we approve, where are we? Lot 11, Route 15, and I'm trying to find the 300 number.
This is just a local one, so there's
Ah,
no
okay.
DEP file number for it.
Okay, yeah,
As indicated by the agent.
all right.
I second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
David Barnacle is in favor.
Stephen Chittister in favor.
Roy Bishop in favor.
And Ed Goodwin is in favor.
Thank you.
Thanks, Glenn. We are now at 6:15. 6 Picker Road, request for amendment OOC, amendment on OOC, stream crossing changes, DP file number 300-1062. New England Cold Storage, Glenn Kravosky. Go for it, Glenn.
Andrew Baum is online for any engineering questions, and Mr. Procon, wrong place, sorry. Andrew Baum is on this.
Just for the record, we do have a butter notifications and proof of legal ad have been received for this.
Yep.
Thank you, you ready?
I can give a quick summary if you want.
sorry,
Okay. So this is, if you remember, a few meetings ago, we were discussing
Yep.
this. This is an amendment request because the arch of the culvert was modified throughout the design process after they got their permit from us, which changed that, which slightly changed the width and the height of the crossing on the upstream side there. Right, it was discussed, you informally kind of approved those changes. They went through the amendment process that we asked them to, and they're asking for formal approval of it. At this time, I'd recommend approval of the amendment request through the issuance of the amended orders of conditions. And the only condition that I would add to our original conditions, I wouldn't take any away, is I would just add that the as-built plan must be submitted which reflects these changes and be consistent with the materials provided. And then I would reference the new materials in there.
All right. Mr. Barnacle, comments?
David Barnacle, no comment.
No comments. Stephen Chittister.
And no comment. That said, this is a public hearing, right?
Yep. Is there anyone in the public who would like to speak in regards to the amendment request for 6 Picker Road, DEP file number 300-1062?
All right.
No one on the public line?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we close the public hearing for 300-1062.
Stephen Chittister, I second that.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
David Barnacle in favor.
Stephen Chittister in favor.
Roy Bishop in favor.
Ed Goodwin in favor.
Thank you again.
Yep.
We need to vote on approving it.
You have to approve it.
Yep. have a motion to approve the change of the project.
I make a motion that we approve DEP file number 300-1062 with the appropriate agent's instructions included.
Stephen Chittister, I second that.
Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor?
David Barnacle is in favor.
Stephen Chittister in favor.
Roy Bishop in favor.
And Ed Goodwin in favor. So we're done with that.
Thank you.
All right. We're now to 6:20.
Yep.
All right. We're at 150 Charlton Road, continued notice of intent, development of a commercial building, truck, parking, and supporting infrastructure, DEP file number 300-1115. Interstate Towing is the owner. Glenn Krabowski is still up at the plate.
We are, if I could, I believe we're just here to hear your peer reviewers. I think this was
Yep.
all about peer review
Yep.
and you hiring, who you were going to hire.
Yep.
We, if I can just briefly say, I know it's not going to be reviewed tonight, but we did send in the restoration report. It was required to be done, the restoration at that site by 10/1/21.
Okay.
The problem, we did not, but there was a requirement of having the report in within 2 weeks. Oh, we didn't quite make the 2 weeks after 10, we did the work on 8/4 and 8/10, so we did it all the way in August. I know, how did that got missed?
Oops.
Apologize, but the report was, everything's growing. We might say this, that we could report that all the plants we put in from New England Wetland Plants and the seed mix, the conservation seed mix and the wet meadow seed mix, it all has green and growth, and we're gonna be doing the report in the spring and then later in the summer as required to make sure that the plants we put, and that's it, the plants that we put in from we did give you the plant species list at a 6-foot density, spacing, where the loom pile was up in the back of that field. We just took that material down, and it was the original A horizon, and that there was one expansion of one flag on that isolated wetland. We added an 8.5. We followed, I oversaw the entire removal, and so we were still dark and black and hydric, and it quickly came up and then got into that oak forest area. And so it was a very small increase. We'll give you the square footage of the increase in wetland, 20-plus square feet. They did put the plan together. I was all over them, like, where's my plan to show you? But I'll add that plan in.
They did send that.
I told him, too, he was in the field. I said, please at least.
Yeah,
get
late this
that,
afternoon, I did get
So
that.
that you would have
so.
everything, and we'll get hard copies to you to add to the reports
Yeah.
that we have hard copies.
Yep, and we can look at that when
Later.
we
I'm sorry
start
to bring that up
the
now.
peer
I know
review.
you-
But yes, that was one of my comments, that we were still waiting on that restoration report. So we did get that today with the plan. But right,
Talking about-
this was continued. We put out three requests for proposals. Thank you. For peer review
Right.
for an engineer to look at the stormwater and also look at all the calculations given to help us with the alternative analysis required under Riverfront. So I did put out 3 requests to different firms. I got 2 back. I provided those to you. Both are qualified firms that have done this work for us on different projects. I did share it with the planning department, as I put in my notes, because they will be looking at this project afterwards as well. And she felt comfortable with either firm. She did say that CMG may be more advantageous based on cost. So at this time, that would, the recommendation would be could go with either one, but based off cost, you could go with the lower one for CMG if you wanted to.
Any comments, David?
No, I still agree with what we have as the issue that we had 2 weeks ago, that it's going to be postponed until January 7th, so that we have time to have the peer reviewer do his work, and everybody gets a chance to review it.
Well, we're
You got to vote on somebody right
going to
now.
vote on somebody.
Yeah.
Yep. Stephen, any comments?
Nope, I agree with everything Becky said, and
In looking at it, I would just go with CMG because it's less money. You know, that was my only, go ahead.
I might be premature, but we will ask for a continuance to that date, because I think it's appropriate at some point that so I'll say it now, and you won't have to hear me later.
Okay.
to that, the date that Mr. Barnacle stated.
Thank you, Mr. Kowalski. I make a motion that we extend this meeting until January 7th.
Well, no, you got to vote first.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
vote on, well, you can make it in the proposal. that
Make the
we-
motion to.
Make it a proposal that we use CMJ. That we form the contract with CMJ.
Oh, first of all, to make a contact, make a contract with the approved vendor.
Yeah,
That's my motion.
all right.
Stephen Chittister, a second?
Discussion. I would like to vote on that approved vendor now.
Yeah.
So I,
David Barnacle, in favor.
Stephen Chittister in favor?
Roy Bishop in favor.
are we voting on the,
And CMG, yeah.
okay. All right, Ed Goodwin in favor.
Now, I'd like to make a motion that we approve of the postponement of, or continuation of the public hearing until January 7th,
6th,
6th.
January
Is it
6th. Glenn, just so you know too, that's a Thursday.
Okay,
We're moving to Thursdays. We're going to send
Whoa,
an
whoa,
email
thank
out to
Right.
everybody,
great.
but just so,
Good.
Stephen Chittister, I second that motion.
January 6th, thank you.
Any further discussion on that motion? All in favor?
David Barnacle in favor.
Stephen Chittister in favor?
Roy Bishop in favor.
And Ed Goodwin in favor. Good. All set back on that?
all set.
Very good. I hope you, all good holidays, and if it's not too crass, good Christmas to you too.
Thanks, Glenn, you
Hey,
too.
Glenn.
Same, Glenn, to you.
We don't want you to get too accustomed to 3 wins in a row.
Yeah.
Well, we still have the peer reviews.
Oh, okay.
You never know where that's going to go, but we appreciate it again, and good
Yeah.
holidays. Thank you. We look forward to January 6th.
All right, we are now at 64 Shattuck Road, NOI proposed garage, DEP file number 300. You don't have a number.
File number did come in after we posted the agenda. It is 11/18.
Okay, 11/18. Good.
You too, thanks, Glenn. All right, so I'm
Mr.
just.
Jalbert, how are you?
Good evening. Ready for the snow.
Hope not. I just got off my roof cleaning the gutters so that everything would drain. That's why I'm walking like this.
All right, so I shared my screen. You guys don't have the best opportunity to see it
Yeah.
there, but you guys have it on here too. So this was a continuation. We did discuss this at our last meeting. Let me just find my notes here. As was indicated, DEP did issue a file number after we posted the agenda, the detailed agenda. Since the last meeting, the plan was revised, what you see today here, to reflect the comments and discussion at the last meeting. There was an inclusion of drip strips along the roof lines of the garage, which was requested, some shrubs, replacement native shrubs to be planted in there, and the area surrounding the garage for that disturbance. A walkout door location was requested, so it wasn't in the back, which is shown on the side. And then also some permanent demarcation at the limit of disturbance line,
Okay.
which includes posts with signage on there. So those were the things that the representative took away from the last meeting. He did work to revise that plan. DEP did have some comments, which the representative did reply to them and gave some information. DEP's comments were, they were asking about cumulative riverfront impacts on this property. Since 1996, the engineer did answer that. The property was developed before 1996, and no additional work was done after that. So this is, there's not cumulative impacts on top of what we're looking at here. They did ask for alternative analysis. He did previously include some information for that, but he did include some additional information to support that alternative analysis to them. And that was it. So he did work to,
What was the alternative analysis?
I have to go back and look at, it was in the project description that you guys had.
Oh, was it? I didn't.
Yeah, yep, let me go back, I have it printed in the file here.
Couldn't Lenny,
Lenny, you want to go
Lenny?
over that one?
couldn't Lenny do that?
Yeah. Lenny, tell us about the alternative analysis. I missed that.
I think I included, well, I had that in the original description, and then I had given the email. I have Lenny's email right here, actually. So he says, yeah, no other riverfront area impacts occurred as a result of any work done on the parcel. Loam and seed will be placed within the lawn area and disturbed areas. The total restored area will be 2,824 square feet, and the garage total is 832 square feet. The lot disturbance will be less than 3.85%. The garage is located as far from the riverfront as possible while keeping construction of the building envelope in an area that has the least disturbance due to topographical constraints. The graded area currently considered is in the 100-200 portion of the riverfront area. No disturbance will take place inside of 140 feet of Hammock Brook. The disturbed area will be marked as shown in the plan to depict the no disturb buffer. The original description also, there was 2 narratives given too that had some additional details in it. Construction of the garage will occur in an area that ties into the existing driveway for access. The location has no major slopes and will cause the least impact for grading and excavation. Placement of the garage outside the riverfront area would have a greater disturbance because of the slopes and a greater distance to access back to the residence. Also, too, there's the setbacks, too, of the property, the building setbacks, so.
Okay.
that-
David?
I'm curious, with all of those indicators from DEP, have they matched them?
Yes, I believe that they've addressed the comments. Like I said in the beginning, the property was built in 1986. It was built in the 80s, so it was pre-riverfront regs. And I did go back and look at the aerial photos to kind of go through the years, and the tree line is consistent on the property, too.
Thank you.
Stephen?
David, I will defer to you. Do you agree that the red chokeberry, black chokeberry, and bayberry make sense for this? Okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess I would have liked to see some
Trees.
trees put in, opposed to just shrubs, but,
Oh, no, I do too. I don't like moving trees, removing trees. My father-in-law is from Southbridge, his name is Rudy DiGregorio, and he hates pine trees. But I have pine trees, and I'm not taking them down, even though I gotta be on my roof and clean out the, I didn't want this garage to disturb any existing trees. We had at a minimum amount of removal of trees. I talked to J&G, Brian Johnson, one of our contractors, and Mr. Jalbert, and I just didn't want to take out trees. They were so close to the building, though. There were a couple we had to move because they were closer than me to you, and there was some concern about mold and possibly wind. So we removed a couple, but we tried everything we could in the interim to not remove them. I like larger ambient trees that blend in to the natural landscape. Matter of fact, the school is, we'd like to paint the building the same color as our house, but what I told my wife is I'd like to get a nice medium brown stain, some forest green trim, blend it into the landscape so that it doesn't pop out. My architect, Mike Pagano from Worcester, advised me on that, and I like his idea. I don't want it to be a commanding piece of the property. I want the property to stay as it is, the emphasis being on the trees, the tree line, the landscaping, the water in the back. That's it. But if you have any ideas, I do have a tree guy that we were working with, and I'm going to be calling in to help plant trees after we get the building up, with your permission. But I'd like to know what trees you think would be most suitable, for the environment. There's so many out there, but some just don't belong because they're not New England in origin, you know? So I just, and he's a great tree guy, but if you folks have any ideas about what trees we should be looking at and planting, I'd be very interested.
Yeah, I guess my comment would be, I'm okay with the shrubs close to the building, but
Yeah.
maybe, the two furthest away locations, maybe to put in something, some kind of more substantial planting than just the shrub.
Yeah,
I don't have a specific suggestion, but,
Well, I've talked to him about if there's any, there's going to be a grade that's not severe at all, because we don't want any water runoff into the land next door, or, create any movement of soil. But there's some other trees that he recommended we work with that look like they just sprouted up by themselves, types of pine. But then there's some ornamental trees we thought might be good too, like dogwoods.
Things you could think about is red maple. First of all, because it will fit Acer rubrum is what you want to look for.
Say that again, David?
Red maple.
Yep.
Acer, A-C-E-R, rubrum, red maple.
What's the second word? Acer,
Rubrum, R-U-R-B-R-U-M.
got it. That's the Latin word, I guess, for it.
The reason for that is because, first of all, it does very well near water.
Yeah,
Second of all, it's relatively quick growing.
yeah.
It's very, very sturdy. And third of all, in the fall, you get one hell of a color variation from the leaves.
I have one in front of my kitchen, and it's great.
The only thing you have to be careful of, and this is what Stephen was alluding to, is we like to see a 15-foot minimum radius from structures,
Yes,
trees.
okay.
And that's sort of why his arm got twisted into agreeing to the shrubs, because if you put them up close to the garage, they're not going to be as successful as they should be.
Yeah, you're right. The roots are going to be constrained. They're not going to be able to grow as much as they would have otherwise. Yeah, that's a good point.
you would be willing to put, say, two of those in, one on each side, maybe the furthest away from the building, but still give it plenty of room to grow.
The red
I would
maples,
be-
Stephen?
Yeah, I would be much more amenable to this.
Yeah, I love that idea because, they cleared the trees, and every day when I come outside, get in my car and leave, I look at this space, and I say, it looks nice, but it's still too empty and everybody's promising me when you put the garage in, it's going to be set back, tucked away nice, it's going to be concealed a bit. We're going to put some nice trees in here and there. Don't worry, it's going to look like it belongs. I said, I hope so, because there's nothing worse than an afterthought or something that looks like an afterthought. My father-in-law, who I mentioned a few minutes ago, told me to do the cheap way out. He said, put a carport. I'm not going to put a car. I bought the land next door from Mr. Melanson, Dick Melanson. I don't know if you folks ever remember him, but he lived here a long, long time. He sold us the house about 18 years ago. And he owned the land next door, and he was going to put a modular home up because he couldn't sell the land on its own. Nobody wanted to buy land and build a house. It's a headache. So I said, geez, Dick, you're going to build a modular home, which is 3-bedroom, 1-bath. So I bought the land from him, and I'm leaving it alone. I'm not doing anything to it, just not even cutting a tree. I just left it there because I like the big buffers. Dr. Roddy's next door is a big buffer. On the other side of the Cruisex, big buffer. And we're all good friends, but we like the nice, the buffer of trees. And you shouldn't have to build. If you can tuck it away. Dr. Roddy has a beautiful garage, too, and it blends into his landscape really nicely. That's where I got the idea to do this.
Well, thank you very much.
Right.
Okay.
Roy, anything?
No, I agree with Stephen and David's comments. And thank you for coming back with the plan
Yeah.
accordingly with the bushes, and if you could put in a couple trees,
Sure.
the red maples, I think that'd be great.
And it's a 15-foot radius.
Yeah, my angle is a little different on this. The sooner you get the garage in and the land stable, the better off the trees that are there will be, and moving forward. The thing that will occur, I'm going to tell you right now, because that you are going to have tree problems with the trees closest to the garage, because you've done root damage to them, and you've changed their lives, when you cut into a forest like that. So the thing is, get the garage in, get the ground stabilized, and plant, you'll see by the end of that, after one growing season, what you really need to do to improve the canopy.
Gentlemen, I have a question. I was wondering about that before as they were on the property, telling me, we gotta cut this one, you know? And we saved, you should know, we saved about 4 trees because of my protests. But the ones that they absolutely had to cut, they cut, and they didn't pull the stumps. So my question is, if they cut the trees, and then they used another chainsaw to cut, not flush to the ground, but almost, is that still going to have that impact on the roots, Ed, that we're talking about now?
No,
If we didn't rip this?
It'll have a positive impact on the trees that you didn't cut if they had roots in that area.
Okay, because I asked them to leave the roots.
So
because,
if you leave the stumps, that's a positive.
yeah.
That's probably more of a positive than a new planting that you could.
Yeah. I know they pulled the stumps up where the footprint of the garage is going because there was some concern over sinkholes, I guess. Years ago, they came to the conclusion that stumps erode and then, you know,
Yeah.
the earth drops out right under it, so. But around it, I said, leave the stumps,
Yeah.
you know, flush to the ground if you can.
All right, let's move this along. Audience?
Is there anyone on the public line who would like to speak in regards to the notice of intent for 64 Shattuck Road, DEP file number 3001118? Again, anyone on the line who'd like to speak in regards to 64 Shattuck Road notice of intent? There is no one on the public line.
Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make a motion we close the public hearing. David Barnacle?
Second?
Stephen Chittister, second.
Any discussion? All in favor of closing the public
David
hearing?
Barnacle in favor.
Stephen Chittister in favor?
Roy Bishop in favor?
Ed Goodwin in favor. Do I have a motion?
Yes. Construction, well,
Oh,
that's good.
so I didn't go over, if you just want me to add the conditions
Sure.
on here for you. So what I had noted was approval with the following conditions, our standard orders of conditions, restoration plantings as shown on the plan, and incorporation of the 2 red maples as discussed. Install infiltration as shown on the plan, and provide, documentation that it's been provided, that's been installed correctly. Perpetual conditions for the permanent bounds and the restoration plantings area. And then also, just wait on closure of the certificate of compliance for at least 1 growing season for those upland plantings.
Okay.
Can we make a comment about we're not talking about a bare root red maple, we're talking about,
The size you're looking
Yeah.
for?
Yeah.
2.5.
well, I want to be reasonable about it, I don't want to go
I think we've done 1.5.
1.5, yeah.
Yeah, 1.5 to 2 inches would be good.
1.5 or 2 inches, that's a reference to the
Diameter
the diameter of the trunk?
of the trunk, yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of small.
Yeah.
Feel free to go bigger than that.
We have one in front of my kitchen.
We have arborists come before us and argue that will grow faster
Oh, good.
than a giant maple if you put that in,
Okay.
so.
Okay.
Right.
We're not convinced of that.
We're not convinced of that.
Dominic, I'll outline that in the order.
Okay,
You
thanks,
don't have a
Becky.
lot, you don't have a lot of room.
No, I know, but they're beautiful, you're right.
Yeah.
They accent well, and
Yeah.
we got them in different spots around the property anyway, so it seems like they almost naturally fit.
Second that, so
Yeah.
that would be the conditions. Do you want to make a motion
Yeah.
now?
Yes, I will make a motion. And the motion is to agree to all of those conditions and pass this, I can't see the 300 number,
1118.
31118.
I second the motion. Stephen Chittister?
Discussion? Seeing none, David?
Did we go to the public yet?
Yes.
Yeah, we did.
We did,
Well said.
okay. Before we do that, I have one more comment I'd like to make. Since you have an arborist friend,
Yes.
have some fun and ask him to show you a picture of Japanese maple.
That's the one in front of my kitchen, not a red maple, it's a
Okay.
Japanese maple.
Fine.
All right, since the public, okay, go ahead, vote. Since we did close.
So that's an option.
No, I just thought for fun.
Stephen Chittister in favor.
Roy Bishop in
No, I
favor.
think
Ed
they
Goodwin
want a
in favor.
red- They want a red maple, they want a native
Yes.
tree.
Red.
not-
Okay, not the Japanese maple?
Yeah.
I didn't say planted, I said look at it.
Okay. No, I want to see it anyway, but
Did you just make a motion, someone second that motion?
Yeah,
And you
I
approved
second
it?
it.
Okay,
Yeah,
just
Stephen seconded it.
trying to be on top of that, Aaron's not
Yes.
here, so.
We
got
voted on it.
distracted with the
voted
Japanese
on.
maple
Yep.
discussion there.
We are now, thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you for your time.
thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you to the committee, thank you.
Have a nice holiday.
Lenny, if you want to
Have a
give
great
me
holiday,
a call
guys.
tomorrow
Thank you.
morning,
Merry
we can
Christmas.
talk
Have a
about
nice
issues when
holiday.
you'd like to pick it
Merry
up,
Christmas
so.
to you.
I never know what to say, because I'm
Give me a call tomorrow.
Roman
try to get
Catholic
that.
Italian, I always say Merry Christmas,
Yep.
but you
Yeah,
gotta
just
say
give me a
Happy
ring and I can let you know when
Holidays
it's
too.
ready.
Hey, Holy Cross.
Oh, yeah? Excellent, excellent. Very, very good.
Have a good night, guys. Happy holidays.
Thank you.
All right, we are now to 286 Big Allen.
Nope.
No?
Number 5.
All right, we're going to go with number 5, all righty. 235 Podunk Road, continuation, RDA, construction of a single-family home and associated work. And you're looking for a continuation on this?
Correct. I have received a written request for continuation to our January 27th meeting. The reason for that request, we had done this continuation, they had revised the wetland line in the back of the property, and regardless of that, the property owner had the septic sited in the back. He wanted to have that in the front. They did have a perk test scheduled. They did have to cancel that due to the conditions, which they have not been able to reschedule. So they do want to extend this out a little bit,
Okay.
because they're looking at project revisions, I guess.
I'd like to make a motion that we continue that until January 27th?
Correct.
Do you have a second?
Stephen Chittister, a second.
Discussion?
Nothing?
No, I have no problem with it. Having read Becky's dissertation on why they're going through it. And besides the fact that when Stephen and I went out there, we couldn't find diddley, so we'll get a better shot at it the next time.
Yeah, there'll be snow on it.
Yeah. We'll be more definitive then.
David Barnacle's in favor of that motion.
What's in the, I'm sorry, what is the date of the?
27th.
The 27th, okay. Stephen Chittister in favor?
Roy Bishop in favor?
And Ed Goodwin in favor. All right.
See, when you try to jump ahead, Mr. Chairman, we help you.
I know, we go fast. It was threatening, wasn't it? 6:40, we're on.
Nope, nope.
6:35.
635, number
Number
6.
Yeah.
My God, I thought we checked them both off at the same time. Okay, 235 Podunk Road. How's this different?
I'd like to make a motion that we continue this until
Yeah.
January 27th.
Yeah, same thing. They've asked for a continuation request. So what we have here is we had first one was a request for determination of applicability because they have a minor amount of work within the 100-foot buffer zone.
Yeah.
And then the second hearing is for a notice of intent under our local bylaw because they do have a lot of work within our local jurisdiction. So they have 2 hearings for this, which they've been asking to continue. So same reason,
All right.
same thing for
I
continuation.
understand, okay.
And if I read it correctly, ultimately, if it doesn't work, the suggestion that you have made is that they put one house on the 2 lots.
Right, they also have to look at, they have, there's the zoning bylaw that talks about how much contiguous upland versus wetland you need on a property, and that's for lots after, I think it's 2004 or 2005, I don't remember off the top of my head, and this is a recently developed, recently subdivided property, which is subject to this, so they may not, they have to give us the calculations for that, and see if it's not individually buildable, they might be able to get one on the 2.
Not getting into that, we have a continuation. David, you had said,
You made the motion.
You made the
Stephen
motion?
Chittister, a second the motion.
No discussion?
no discussion? All in favor?
David Barnacle in favor.
Stephen Chittister in favor.
Roy Bishop in favor?
And Ed Goodwin in favor. All right. I'm dying to get to Big Elm.
Yeah, you're there to.
286 Big Elm Road, continued NOI, proposed deck. Do we have a file number?
We do. They did issue a file number yesterday, I believe. It's 31119.
All right. Becky?
So I'm just going to pull up on the screen here the revised plan. We do have the engineer on go-to-meeting here for any questions, but just quickly to summarize, so we did receive the DEP file number. The only comments from DEP, let me find them. Let's see. DEP did note, they asked if there will be any impacts to land under a water body, and then also to please note the size of this dock and if it may be permittable under a Chapter 91 license. And that Chapter 91 license may be required. So those were questions that we had initially about the Chapter 91 license. We do know that they have to get one. They have acknowledged that they do need to apply, which they are going to do after permitting with conservation. And then there are no land underwater body impacts associated with this, this dock. So we did receive the revised plan. Let me find my other notes here. So we have the revised site plan, then we also have the revised sketch plan done by the landscape architect, working to address your comments. Bank impact of 10 feet was added to the notice of intent. The plan revisions included shifting the counterweight 2 feet back off the bank, which is what their original design intent was, from my understanding. They also reduced the counterweight size to 10 by 10, and they reduced the dock width to 10 feet, which leaves that area on the side with the steps open to get in. They also are proposing to remove the additional patio, which would not be under the dock now, and to stabilize that with sod. The project includes installation of a turbidity curtain, or if earthwork is needed. I would recommend erosion controls right at the bank, because they're actually not disturbing the bank there during upland work. And then they can have the turbidity curtain as an extra thing if they need it. So just changing what I had previously written, because DEP did issue the file number. I think they've worked to address the commission's comments based off of the last meeting that we had. I would recommend that you vote to close the hearing and issue an order to conditions with the following conditions. We'd have our standard OOC conditions. I would also add that the dock decking board should have gaps. I think it's, Dave, is it 16 pennies worth that you usually add in there? That provides sunlight below the dock. Trees to be protected during work. Installation of the erosion controls between the area excavated in a resource area and the turbidity curtain if needed. Excavated material to be properly removed from the site. They have to obtain a Chapter 91 license before they do any of the work within that jurisdiction. And then I put an order to note the bank impact for the site, and that way, if there's any future stuff that comes back, we have that noted bank impact for cumulative impacts on site. Pete, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add in here?
I think you covered it pretty well.
David?
I don't have any comments or questions.
Stephen?
Nope, I appreciate the extra work that was done on this.
Roy?
I agree with Stephen. I think, thankful that they came back with the plan that was revised and took our comments to heart.
The length is going to be 10 feet?
It's the width.
The width.
The width is going to be 10
Width.
feet?
Yeah.
It said 8 when they left, right? So they've gone to 10
Hold
feet?
on, so the total proposed, remember, some of this is over the land. The total is
Yeah.
32 by 10, 20 by 10 over the water, so length will be 20 feet.
22 by 10 over the water. Now,
20 by 10.
20 by 10 over the water.
20 by 10 over the water. Now, in looking at the engineered plan, is it the plan that you'll be able to lower the dock down depending on the water height?
No.
No, so the dock will be fixed elevation at all times.
And that will be out of water?
Correct.
All right, that's my only question. Anything further? I want to check the audience.
Anyone in the audience on the public line who would like to speak in regards to the notice of intent for 286 Big Alum Road? There's no one who would like to comment.
Do I have a recommendation to close the public hearing?
David Barnacle, I make a motion that we close the public hearing for 286 Big Alum Road, DEP file number 300-1119.
Stephen Chittister, I second that motion.
Discussion. Seeing none? All in favor?
David Barnacle is in favor.
Stephen Chittister in favor.
Roy Bishop in favor?
Ed Goodwin in favor. All right, do I have a motion?
David Barnacle would like to make a motion that we approve of DEP file number 300-1119 with the conditions that have already been mentioned, and one that I did not hear mentioned, and that is the business about the Chapter 91 license, to make sure that that is in there.
Yeah, you mentioned that, yep. Stephen Chittister, I second that.
Discussion. You got it all, Becky? You have. All right. All in favor?
David Barnacle's in favor.
Stephen Chittister in favor.
Roy Bishop in favor?
And Ed Goodwin in favor. Thank you. All right. Well, we're speeding along here at 30 Main Street. Lot 3, 30 Main Street, continued ANRAD, abbreviated notice of resource area, delineation, proposed development of a residential subdivision, DEP file number 300-1113. All right.
So just to provide a quick summary, this was continued. We did have a peer review done on this property by Oxbow Associates. We did just recently receive the report, and I did ask Ron to come on. He's on go-to meeting here, just to kind of go over his findings for the board. I know that you haven't really had the opportunity to look at this, so we can give the summary. My recommendation after the summary is that we set up a site visit, because we didn't do it earlier. We were waiting to get the report. Set up a time to do a site visit, go out, take a look at the site, resource areas with our peer reviewer.
All right. Any questions,
hear me?
discussion? David, do you have any?
No, I'd like to hear from the report.
From Ron?
Yep.
All right,
Go ahead, Ron.
go ahead.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'm Ron Stosa with Oxbow Associates. I'm a professional wetland scientist, and I recently was, picked by Sturbridge to come review the wetland line. We reviewed the wetland line under the Wetland Protection Act and the Sturbridge bylaw, and both their regulations. We do this by, traversing the site, looking at each flag, evaluating the plant community and the height and the soil horizons in the area, and then determining whether the flag is in an accurate location or not. If it's not accurate, we noted it on the site plan and made some notes, and we've provided them in the report here. I reviewed the site specifically on November 18th with a colleague of mine. I just noted in the report that we didn't review wetland B that was located outside of the ANRAD limits. but it does have a buffer zone that extends into this property. But it was reviewed under the previous NOI by you guys in, I think, August of this year. And we did not review flags A1 through 31 because they had been under previous peer review by Ecotech during that previous NOI. Likewise, the vernal pool located within that series, between A1 and 31, was not reviewed for accuracy. We did take a look just to make sure there was no further extent of the wetland resource areas outside of the shown wetland line. We didn't find any adjustments that were necessary. We continued following the A series BVW line from A31 to A88. Portions of that line have broad transition zones with very rocky soils. So it was clearly evident that a lot of the wetland flagging was completed using the existing vegetation and the transition between wetland and upland vegetation. It was very difficult to try and get soils in a lot of locations. When we did, we usually hit a restrictive layer within the first foot. It was still possible to observe some redox in the wetland side of the lines, but it was difficult to poke around in there. Most of the vegetation was most of the wetland line was probably based off the limit of mountain laurel that was on the site. It's pretty extensive, covering most of the site. So we followed the A series BBW line. We found the line to be overall fairly accurate. We only made minor adjustments to the line. Specifically, we noted on the plan that flag A65 is missing from the plan. It connects from A64 directly to A66, but I was able to locate flag A65 in the field. I think it was hanging on either a pine or a hemlock, so it was still evergreen. I think the flag was probably just hidden from view when it was being surveyed, but it was located accurately in relation to the wetland, and we think it should be added to the plan. Further up gradient, we moved flag A70 approximately 6 feet to the west. There was some standing water that was up gradient between flags A70 and A71. Moving it just that small amount encapsulated that entire portion of the area in question. Similarly, A74, which was just further down the line, was also moved approximately 5 feet to encapsulate a small surface flow, rocky slope drainage area. So just moving those a couple feet accurately fixed the wetland line. We noted flag A77 was missing, but using the site plans, we could pretty much evaluate where there was only one plant that really stuck out of where the flag probably was, and where it was hung up by the wetland evaluator. We assume it just blew off with the wind. Using the site plans, we evaluated where it could potentially be, and we think that the plan is accurate, although the flag was missing. And then lastly, between flags A82 and A86, there's a slope that slopes to the west, and there's a series of depressions behind a small berm that the wetland evaluators went in front of the berm because it's mostly covered with mountain laurel. We adjusted the line to encapsulate the series of depressions that were behind this berm to include, so the wetland includes them. They did have hydric soils in them and were surrounded by mostly cinnamon fern up gradient. So we believe it was, a hydric wetland area. Those are pretty much the only adjustments to the line. Like I said, it was fairly accurate. We did move to the E-Series wetland and evaluated the wetland line on that. And we did check the wetland line that was located off-site to the south and to the east of the property line. It does appear to be accurate on that side. It's a very steep slope, very rocky, so they basically just put it at the toe of slope. To the north, between flags A2 and A4, we noted that that turns into a low-lying, it almost looks like an old sand pit or gravel pit. I'm not sure the history of the area, but it was definitely, topographical low spot, but it had very small saplings growing in it. To me, it indicated that there was something that happened there, that there were no large trees growing in the area, and it could have either been logged, or I had possibly proposed that beaver activity in the E-Series wetland further downstream may have previously been a larger dam that had flooded this area for some period of time, but had released the water, and in the meantime, a bunch of these 1-inch shrubs have filled in the meantime. We did find some redox in the soils, but it was approximately a foot deep, and I was attempting to find if they were actual hydric soils, and I used the NRCS Field Companion Guide to Hydric Soils in New England, and I did not find that it met any of the criteria. The redox was too low in the soil column. So I do believe that the wetland line is accurate, or it's very close. So I don't think there's any adjustment needed for that. In regards to the wetland, in regards to the vernal pool evaluations, we entered the E-Series vernal pool attempting to characterize whether it could potentially be suitable for amphibian breeding in the vernal pool, appropriate vernal pool season. We did find that it meets the criteria as the applicant's wetland evaluator indicated. I think we had over 36 inches of water in one part, and we found a number of invertebrates and green frog tadpoles that were within the vernal pool. So we do believe in the spring that it'll likely support salamander and other obligate species breeding. We did note that the water levels for the fall of 21 right now are very high. And I believe that the water levels that we see now are probably mimic the levels that we would see in the spring of any year. I think this E-Series wetland specifically, there's probably a elevation that it overtops a beaver dam downstream, or this E-Series wetland flows into a stream to the south, where it really isn't going to get too much higher. Using that, we decided to evaluate the mean annual high water line that was flagged by the wetland evaluator, and we did note that basically the mean high water flags in the E-Series wetland follow the limit of standing water that was out there now. And so we believe that those flags are accurate as well. And similarly to that, we evaluated the A-Series wetland and mean high water flags 1 through 25 that were called out in those vernal pools. We did note that the areas that they found the egg masses in April and May of earlier this year did seem deep enough to hold egg masses and support obligate breeding. So we agree with the limits of the vernal pool habitat called out in that wetland as well, with the exception of one flag. I believe we're propose eliminating flag 20 in that series and connecting flag 19 directly to flag 21. There was a small pool of water upland of or up gradient of that flag that would indicate it may potentially provide habitat during a tadpole feeding time. And we also evaluated the area between flags A66 and A88 to determine whether there was any vernal pool habitat in that area. I did note that it's fairly steep. It looks like an old cart road almost that has washed out, and it all flows down from flag 75 to the north, and eventually flows to flag A60, and then goes down into the larger wetland series where the vernal pools are. I don't believe that the area between A66 and A88 could be a vernal pool. It just seems that there's not anywhere that would be deep enough for a long enough period that it would support any obligate or facultative species for the 2-month period that's required to be a certified vernal pool under NHESB guidelines. And just, I did write in the report that the plan was missing topography. I think I noted that it wasn't in the bylaw, but I just recently looked at the bylaw and noted that it actually was in the bylaw that you require topography on the site plans. So I would suggest that the applicant just add those to the site plans. I think it actually would make understanding the wetland system a little bit easier for the commission to understand where the water is actually flowing to and where groundwater breakout could occur. We did traverse the rest of the site, and we did not find any other wetlands or vernal pool habitat.
Great. Is that it, Ron?
Yes, that's all.
Great. Any questions, David?
No questions.
Stephen?
Sorry.
Go ahead.
When looking at some of those slopes, I don't suppose the 8% slope bylaw comes into play, but we should remember it if, in fact, there is construction considerations to be taken in the future. It's difficult to tell because we don't have the lines on the plan to indicate exactly what the slope requirements are, but our expert here has indicated some pretty serious slopes.
Yeah, I think that's going to be important when reviewing the notice of intent to take into account when looking at their proposed development and having the engineer take that into consideration if that 500-foot buffer needs to be added in certain parts of the property. I agree.
Okay.
I don't know that that needs to be done as part of the ANRAD process for the wetland bylaw, as that's the zoning, under the zoning bylaw.
The other question goes along with David's, is that there were 2 areas that they had committed to repairing.
Correct.
And where do we fly with those? Because we're going through this process without those 2. Ron, did they even tell you that they had 2 areas that they had agreed to alter to get them back to? Go ahead, Becky.
So just to be clear, that's not on this proposed lot, which is part of what they're doing for the ANRAD here. That's part of the other portion of the property where they went through the notice of intent process for the subdivision road already. So he's not looking at that as part of this ANRAD. That area isn't part of this.
Well, I don't know that as a one member of this committee that I'm willing to take that off to the side and let them proceed with things don't include what they committed to
Okay.
on the overall lot. I don't know how you,
Until it comes up, I don't think it's right for us to make a decision with numbers yet.
yeah, but we have to remember.
I'm
Where-
sure the
where we
chairman
go.
will remember.
No, I have Stephen for that.
Mr. Chair, I do have two questions.
Go ahead.
Ron, thank you for the very detailed summary of this. My first question is the first diagram you have showing the A65 flag.
Yeah,
I'm just a little confused because they show A64 and A66 to be a straight line, directly connected. Is A65 in a straight line with those two other flags?
I don't believe so. It's,
Is it more where you have the end of your arrow on the diagram?
yeah, I don't think, the arrow isn't to scale, obviously, it's, I just kind of threw it in the general area where I thought I was. But I do believe it's up gradient from the existing line
And
that's shown on the plan.
that's a fairly significant deviation there, so I just wanted to be clear on that.
Yeah, I don't think it's, that looks like it's 20 feet higher. It's probably not that high,
Okay,
where the arrow is showing. It's probably closer to 10 or 12 feet.
but the flag's in place, so they can relocate that.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was hanging off of I believe it was a hemlock. It could have been a pine. I'm blanking on it right now, but I think it was probably just hidden from view from where the surveyor probably was standing.
Okay. My second question is the very last diagram. You were talking about eliminating MHW 20.
Yep.
So what I'm confused about, in your narrative, it sounded like, I don't see it in the text, but when you were speaking, it sounded like you were referencing some pooling water, and it looks to me like you're actually showing less land as being wetland than more.
Sorry, I cropped the image too short. So this is actually in the whole thing. Everything in that image is interior to the wetland. If you see in the top right, there's the wetland flag that signifies the deviation from wetland to upland. So everything is actually in the wetland. This is just expanding the vernal pool limit.
Okay, very
By
good. So
connecting.
it's expanding the vernal. That's where my confusion was. Okay, very good.
Yeah, so it probably moves the vernal pool line about 3 feet higher than it is at M20.
Very good. Thank you.
That's a good
Yep.
catch.
Nope. All good?
I'm good.
Okay, so I would recommend that we continue this to the January 6th meeting.
Right.
Like I said earlier, so we can go out, do a joint site visit with Ron, and then the applicant, his representative, can work to revise the plans per the comments and resubmit that.
Do we want to do the audit?
Anyone in the audience who would like to speak in regards to the ANRAD for Lot 330 Main Street or on the public line? We also have the applicant and the project engineer on the line too. I don't know if they have any comments they want to add.
Hey Becky, did you say January 6th?
Correct. Yep,
All right. And you would need that a week in advance, correct?
correct.
We haven't voted on it yet, though.
Well, do you need more time, Pete, because of the holiday? Is that what you're,
No, we should be able to make that work.
okay.
All right. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion that we continue this hearing for 31113 until January 6th.
Stephen Chittister, I second that.
Discussion? All in favor?
David Barnacle in favor?
Stephen Chittister in favor?
Roy Bishop in favor?
Ed Goodwin in favor.
Ron, I'll be in touch to set up that site visit, because we'll have to, looks like we'll have to do that outside of our normal site visit schedule for the next meeting. I'll work with the board and get back to you, and Pete, I'll let you know when that's going to be as well.
All right,
Great, thank you.
now to
Thank you.
Clark Road, 91 Clark Road, continuation. Notice of intent for a single-family home with associated site work, DEP file number 300-1112. All right.
Good evening. Just for the record, Scott Morrison from Ecotech. We're back before the commission tonight. I've got a view of the plan here, and there's one up behind you. I don't know what's easier to look at. So the proposed project was before this commission probably a month ago or more at this point. At that time, the commission asked that the proposed house be located outside the 100-foot buffer zone and see if we could tighten up some of the grading. The grading along the driveway was much more expansive, and the proposed lawn and erosion control barrier was much more expansive in the original proposal. There was also a proposed barn that had subsequently been removed. So they've...
Scott, there's a pointer right between the two mics there if you want to use it.
Perfect. So if you look here, the erosion control barrier was further down this way, and then it kind of cut through this way, and these grades extended way out down through here. There was a proposed barn here, so the grading was way out through here. Tighten that up to go much closer to the driveway, closer to the house, steepened up these grades, made the house located outside the 100-foot buffer zone, made it a walkout, which kind of minimizes the grades back here. They also proposed to install a impervious barrier around the backside of this septic system, which allows them to steepen up the grades here, so drastically reduce the amount of work in the buffer zone. We've also proposed a cross culvert here. There's kind of a swale. I'm not sure how much water it really gets, but anyway, that will be passed beneath the proposed driveway and continue through. We did do a site walk. We had this staked out, the limit of work flagged. At least a couple commission members were able to make it out to review it. We also revised a wetland flag right here, slid that up gradient about 20 feet or so. It has really no impact on the proposed project, but we moved that, revised the plans accordingly, and we're back before this commission seeking approval and order of conditions for the proposed project. I'd be happy to answer questions if the commission has any.
Start off with David. Rebecca, you want to have anything you want to say? Why don't you?
I don't have too much to add. Scott went over all the revisions that were put on the plan. We did the site visit, revised the flag. Right.
Well, he didn't mention the flags that were revised.
Huh? You did, yeah.
He did, okay.
Yep. So that plan did come in
Yep.
with those revisions for you. Right, they worked to significantly reduce grading work within the 100-foot buffer zone. I think they did a pretty good job at that. I mean, the only thing that I noted with this is that, right, we talked about on site, there's a lot of Japanese knotweed out there, and they are gonna be doing construction. You know, the property owner might want to consider having it removed just for himself to reduce the spread on the property and within the buffer zone. It really is encroaching. There is some on adjacent properties that have to be dealt with, but they really should look to try to stop the, you know, the spread of it on the property. It'd be a shame just for his purposes, the beautiful property, to have it go over that. So, you know, we could add a condition. You may want to consider adding a condition to have them submit a plan to you know, remove that, or they can come back at another time and do that too. That's up to the commission if you want that. I would note though, within the conditions, one of the things I would definitely recommend is that any material that's excavated where there is Japanese knotweed is not used on the site and is removed and properly disposed of.
Yeah, I actually have a better suggestion. There is a bunch of fill that's going to be required back through here. My suggestion would be the knotweed's over here. So if you can remove any of that material, if you use it as fill around here, it'll be within an area that's going to be proposed lawn, and they'll keep mowing it. And it may take a year or two, but by maintaining and mowing it, they'll eliminate it. And the other suggestion, because there is some knotweed, I would encourage the commission to have a special condition that allows the property owner to do some, treatment or removal of the knotweed. So it gives them an incentive to do it, as opposed to if you don't include it, there's less incentive if he's going to come back before the commission to seek further approval, so.
Yeah, imagine if it spread all over Clark Road.
Yeah, that's, there's a significant portion through here, this whole area off-site's got a bunch, and then over across the street around this catch basin has a bunch, so there's no way to get rid of all of it because it's on multiple people's property, but I think if the commission gives some approval to, do some treatments or hand pulling, he'd be more than willing to do that. And if you include that in the order, there's some encouragement for him to do it, as opposed to, having somebody to come back through this whole
Yep.
process.
Yep, I agree on that. So, I would recommend approval at this time of the project with our standard conditions that we include. I did note in there to have the material removed off the site. I understand what you're saying about you can move it, but I would hate to see it to encourage the spread. I get it, if they keep cutting it, it'll eventually go away. So that's up to the commission if you want to have it completely removed or allow them to use it as fill in other portions of the site. And then add a condition for the submission of an invasive species plan for the Japanese knotweed on the site for review and approval by you in the future. So he can work to have that removed. So.
David? I have one question. The driveway, is it facing right toward the water?
No, there's an area of bordering vegetated wetland here. There's a lot of the road runoff comes down through here. Pocket of BBW. This is a stream that flows down this way and then kind of wraps around. So the driveway will shed, if it's crowned, water will either enter the culvert here or shed across this lawn area and then sheet flow through this forested area before it reaches the wetland.
Yeah, my consideration is that the crowning is not going to last, and it'll start to sheet flow quite quickly. But
This
if
is
it can be
really
absorbed-
level. There's
If
an
it can be
existing-
absorbed around it, it's okay.
Yeah, I'd say, if you look at the contour map, there's a contour here and the next one's here. So the first 100-foot section of this driveway is pretty much dead flat. And then it comes up, drops off a little bit as you get into where this old foundation is. So for the most part, this driveway, for the length of it, there's only maybe 2 or 3 feet of elevation change between the road and the proposed garage. They can confirm how flat it is. Because this used to be, has some type of right-of-way, I think, that goes back to, there's a subdivision back here, I forget the name of it. What's it?
There's an old retaining wall
Woods.
to the north of
Yep.
it.
Yeah, so there's a
Right along.
retaining wall that wraps around, runs
Pretty
along
nice.
the property line here,
Yeah.
and then another retaining wall runs along this lower side of the driveway here.
Okay.
And then there's some more retaining wall back in through here, or not retaining wall, but stone wall.
Thank you.
Scott, thank you for the revisions and, hearing us out and making the changes. I appreciate that. I also appreciate the suggestion to remove the knotweed. I'm fine with them relocating it on the property, assuming that it's, it's buried and it's in an area where they're going to mow and that it's, not allowed to propagate any further. I'm okay with that, as opposed to trying to dispose of it. It's going to be like hazardous waste. And that, I think the cost of that is going to be significant, so.
Yeah, because I think they either have to incinerate it, or the other thing is, you probably pay somebody to load it into a truck that says they can incinerate it. It goes to the next town over and they just dump it.
Right, yeah, that's my
And you're just
concern.
spreading the problem.
I'd rather see it disposed of on the property and then dealt with over time, so that's great. Thank you.
I just echo Stephen's comments.
Yeah, I'm a little nervous about that. The, moving the knotweed to, fill, to the fill area in the back, because first of all, I want them to stay out of the wetland, and the wetland is full of knotweed.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some on the driveway, but the primary area that it is in the wetland. So I'd hate to see him take a bulldozer and go pull knotweed out of the wetland.
Well, it's my understanding that the recommendation is to ask for a plan of
Yeah,
how they're going to do it. and
yeah,
we
I'm
have
just
to
kinda going
approve that
through it.
Plan. But yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
The other thing that hasn't been discussed is the tree that is equal to the age of all of us put together.
Yeah,
Which
that's,
is in the edge of the wetland, which needs to have the big leaner taken off it, and probably some pruning to keep.
yeah, there's a very large tree here, and then there's one that snapped about, what,
Yeah,
20
that's not-
feet up in the air.
Yeah.
That's kind of come down on top of this. So they got to get a machine in, probably a bucket truck to come in anyway to remove the leaner. So I think the intent would be to remove anything there's a very large tree that's in decent condition, as long as they pull the
Yeah.
leaners and other.
Do you think they'll need a bucket truck or a crane?
I'm guessing a bucket truck, but they may bring a crane in.
Yeah, because they may have a lot of weight to be pulling out of it.
They'll
know how
either
they
come
do
in
it.
with a bucket truck and then cut it up in pieces, or just come in with a crane and cut it and pull the whole piece off.
Yeah.
But,
All right, but that I would like to see in the plan to.
Conditions.
In the condition to save that tree.
Yeah, I mean,
The other one that he's talking about is broken off twice at the top already.
yeah, the tree is outside of the limit of work, so when we have conditions where they have to install the erosion controls
Right.
per survey, and have the engineer sign off that it is accurately, and it's in the right place.
Yeah.
And I have to check it too to make sure, so I would make sure that the tree is
Okay.
outside the limit of work, and then also, at that pre-construction meeting, we'll talk about how they're gonna remove the leaners off of it, so.
Okay, great. So then, want to hear from the audience? Have we got
Sure.
any? Yeah.
Anyone in the audience or on the public line who would like to speak in regards to the notice of intent for 91 Clark Road, DEP file number 300-1112? We have no one on the public line.
Scott, when you're talking to them, you might want to mention that a bucket truck might be really advisable, because the crane is $1,000 for the first day, and all that gets it is on the site. It doesn't include any work.
yeah, so
It's
I
big
think the
time.
bucket truck's the way to go, even if it takes a little bit longer.
So I will add a condition that allows them to get that material on-site to be used as fill. I guess I would just add in that, since they need a substantial amount of fill, that maybe this is
Yeah.
the first that's brought in, so it's down on the bottom, and we don't really have to worry about it being on the top and potentially spreading, so.
Yep. Yeah. And just to be clear too, is there was a bunch of knotweed here. We're not proposing to do anything with that. The only knotweed that may be removed is for the excavation for the
Okay,
driveway.
yeah.
So this area here would be
Yeah.
would be what was treated in the future.
Yeah. And having had a crane on my property twice in the last 3 years, I can assure you that if you're gonna do that, you're gonna have to get a crane in there. A bucket truck isn't gonna do anything for you with the weight of what's in there. And then you're gonna drop it in the wetland. The leaner's gonna go in the wetland, and how are you gonna get it out? I'm serious.
Yeah, the leaner's up here.
They're gonna wanna go in with a skid steer and pull that stuff out, and they're
jeez.
gonna make a mess.
You don't want to think that way.
We'll have a discussion.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, and
That's what we're doing, is having a
cleaners on it
discussion.
both ways, but we'll make sure
Yeah.
they won't be going outside the limit of work.
All right, where were we?
Make a motion to approve.
Close the public hearing?
Yes, let's have a motion to close the public hearing.
Stephen Chittister, a second.
Discussion? Seeing none?
David Barnacle in favor.
Stephen Chittister in favor.
Roy Bishop in favor?
And Ed Goodwin in favor.
Now we'd
Thank you very
like to
much.
have a motion to pass, hang on, I'll get to it. 91 Clark Road, the DEP file number 300-1112, with all of the conditions as indicated by the agent.
Stephen Chittister, I second that.
Discussion? Anybody? Vote?
David Barnacle in favor.
Stephen Chittister in favor.
Roy Bishop in favor?
And Ed Goodwin in favor.
Thank you.
Thanks again, guys.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
You too.
Good job.
Thank you.
Now we are at some time of the night here.
7:10, number
Yeah,
10.
all right. Number 10, 776 Stallion Hill Road, continued notice of intent, DEP file number, failed septic system, DEP file number 300-1116. Mr. Farrell, are you on the line?
He's on there. Mark, you're on mute. Oh, there we go.
Okay, am I in now?
Yep.
You are.
You're at-
So I'll just give a quick summary. This is a continued hearing for a proposed septic replacement on here, discussed at our last meeting. The commission had some comments. I also had some comments. We're looking for some revisions to this and some additional information. The engineers worked to revise the plan, what we have in front of us, and I know it's hard to see up there, so I do have hard copies if you want one to look at. That would be helpful. Yep, let me just, 10, let me pull it out here. And I have, yeah, here you go, if you want to look at that. Oh, wait, is that the right one? Sorry, let me pull the whole file out. I'm trying to. This is 10, yeah, I gave you the wrong one. This is the new one. Here you go, that was the old one. Do you want a couple, I know this just,
We got this, yeah.
do you want to look at it closer, Dave? You guys good?
Yep.
Steven?
I wouldn't mind having an extra, since you got them.
Yeah, he's got his wood stove going at home, I know.
So I'll let Mark go over, but just quickly, what we have for the revisions on this plan, we did ask for some additional wetland flags in the swale stream coming out of the culvert, because it does connect the two wetlands. He did incorporate those on there. Sticking along the resource area here going down, there was an area of leftover remnants, a lot of dumping that kind of occurred on the property. They did indicate that they will remove that debris out of the buffer zone there, so they do have that noted on the plan. There's a dilapidated bridge that they will remove off of here, and then the portion of the deck that has the dots, the hash mark on here, that's the one that's over the stream that is structurally not safe. They would have to repair it. They will take that portion of the deck off there too. So those are things that we had asked about. We had also asked about, the commission had some concerns where the original proposed septic was to be replaced, was immediately adjacent to resource area, was within our 25-foot no-touch and within 50 feet, which is the Title V setback for septic systems to wetlands also. So the engineer did speak to Board of Health. We did say we want some coordination with Board of Health on what they'd be looking for, and also with ourselves. So they shifted the system over, so it's outside of the 50-foot Title V setback to the wetlands, and it is a little bit, it's a bit closer to the on-site well. How far is it from the on-site well, Mark? I think it's about 80 feet.
Yeah, it's about 83 feet. It was 100 feet, but we slid it over to get it further from the wetlands, and I did speak with Board of Health, and he thought that they would be amicable to giving a variance to locate the leach field within the 100-foot buffer to his well.
Yep, and I did speak to Board of Health about that, too. So this is, just so you're aware, this isn't a typical leach field, and I can let Mark go over it. This is an upgraded system, so it does give better treatment, which is required when a variance is needed. I did look back at, you asked me to look back at the records for this property and the adjacent one. I did find, the only thing we found on this property, this house was built in 1964, and that well was put in at that time. That was one of the questions that you had. So it is an artesian well that's on this property. The well on the adjacent property, I looked at the Board of Health records. They didn't have anything on your well. I know you had a question about that. But they did have, your system was upgraded. It was repaired or replaced in 2000.
In 2000, what I actually had done was, there is a shallow well that's on the property, that's at the front of the property, not far from where this work is being done, that is not operational. The work that I had done on the well, after I purchased the home, we ran out of water within a very short period of time because I did a quality check and I had not thought to do quantity.
Yeah,
And so
sorry, I just gonna have to ask you to go to the mic, so
Yeah.
Mark, yeah, people can hear, and just your name.
I'm Jackie Boothiller. I think on record here it's Jacqueline Casey.
You can sit down if you want, Jackie.
Stallion Hill Road. I'm sorry?
You can sit down if you want to.
Oh, that's okay. I don't mind standing. But when I purchased the home, there was an issue with the well where we ran out of water. I had teenagers at the time and showers and things of such. So I ended up having to have the well hydrofrac'd and then dug deeper. I have reached out to Charlton Well for records because I thought I was going to hear back on information that you had on public record, which I didn't. Because that work was done in 2000, they're trying to pull the records because they're over 21 years old. But when we did have the conversation, I asked them, with the hydrofracking, does that not open veins that are available within the well, even though you had to go deeper for the quantity? It still had water coming in within different veins within the well, and they said absolutely that's how that project would work. So as far as the depth of my well at this point in time, I'm not sure. It wasn't a new well that was dug, it was an existing well that was reworked, if you will, by hydrofracking and digging deeper.
Okay. All right. So yeah, you had asked for that. That's all I could find was Board of Health. But so as far as this plan, you know, it does require a variance with Board of Health for the well on this property, but it wouldn't for yours. So I did check with Board of Health, and it is a 100-foot setback from a private property well. So they do exceed with this new system. They're over 100 feet from your well, which meets their requirements.
Right, and in the regulation, I did see that, you know, the setback, the distance from it. The concern that I have is that the seepage within the leach field that's in there says that it cannot be within a 200-foot of a water source. My water source is from the tributaries, obviously, of the water that's flowing underneath the ground and flowing into my well. And I am not confident that there isn't a water source that's coming into my well that is less than 200 feet.
Okay.
The impact.
Yeah, and that's something that would have to be asked of Board of Health as far as the requirements, you know, for the well.
It's actually on a table that's located in the Massachusetts Regulations 310 Mass Reg 15.211. There is a table there. It talks about the setback from the well to the septic, and then it also talks about the from a water source. And that's where I received the information from. And my concern is because of where the leach field would be located and the pitch going directly down, the way the land slopes, with this being where the leach field would be here, it slopes straight down towards my well. And sadly, I would not want to have my water source contaminated because of the new system that's being put in.
And I'm not sure, as that's part of Title V, what the definition of water source is in there. Mark's on the line, he might know. But again, that's more of a Board of Health. We don't regulate Title V, that's through Board of Health. But this plan will have to get filed with Board of Health for approval pursuant to Title V, as far as wells and other septic systems and setbacks too.
Yeah, but let's ask Mark, because he said he had just been with the Board of Health.
Mark, do you know when Title V is referring to the water source and it has a 100-foot setback, do you know what that?
Well, Title V is to a private water supply well, of which is both these properties have the setback from a leach field to a well is 100 feet. There are increased ones that are public water supply wells that would be serving a municipality or a large number of people. But in both cases, these are private water supply wells, and the setback is 100 feet. So the system where it is now is basically going to go back to where the original system was. Is, if anything, it's shifted slightly away from her well, and her well is really not going to be impacted by this.
Through the chair. I'd just like to kind of contribute to this in that I'm a hydrogeologist by training. So if I was you and I lived where you do and had your well, I would not be concerned about this. This system is designed for, more efficient treatment of effluent. Your well is, I don't know for sure, but I'm assuming that your well would be drawing from a source that is not hydraulically connected to the surface water, to the shallow water table that would be under your property and under this property, the subject property. So I guess my point is, I just kind of like to alleviate your fears that it is being put at a distance that is regulated by the Board of Health to protect, private drinking water supplies. One of the main concerns is that what you can have happen is that you can get contamination of a shallow, the shallow water table that can migrate to your wellhead, and if there's any defects in the construction of your wellhead, then that could be a concern for contaminating that well. But as far as that effluent seeping down and being drawn into your well, it's highly unlikely that that would happen.
You should mention to her also about fracking.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of experience with the fracking, but that tells me that this well, that your well is placed into the bedrock and you're drawing water from a bedrock system. So the only reason why they would use the fracking is to increase the fractures in the bedrock, like you mentioned. But that also tells me that water supply is separated from the shallow, from your shallow aquifer. So you have two different aquifers. They're not hydraulically connected. You can't get it's highly unlikely to get the contamination in the aquifer that you're drawing from. Hopefully that helps.
In a way it does, but I'll be honest with you, when the town had to re-engineer the water flow after my neighbor at 70 Stallion Hill Road had his septic washed out from that unusual rainstorm, and we had like a river that flowed down Stallion Hill. Once the water flow was re-engineered, I have significant water that flows into my property now, where there are depressions that were never there when I first purchased the home, where the vegetation has changed because the water flow within my property is heavier than it was when I originally purchased the property as well. Confident to say that it wouldn't impede on it. There's more water. I have water in my basement now that I've never had before. So I'm not overly confident that that's a situation where there would be no chance of contamination. Again, especially since the pitch of where the leach field would be located goes down to it's not even like we were all flat and there would be a non-issue. It literally pitches straight down towards the brook in the back of the property and straight towards where my well is located. So that's where my concern is.
Understood.
What visually does, just out of personal concern, when you visually look at your well, what does it look like?
Ed, Mike?
Around,
I want her to, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
it probably protrudes from the ground, maybe about 2.5 to 3 feet. It's
Yeah.
brown metal with a cap on top of it. I don't really know how to describe a well, to be honest with you.
Yep, no, that gives me what I was looking for. The other question that have you had your water tested?
I had my water tested when I first purchased the home.
And?
I had it tested when I found out the septic system was broken, and that there were optional means of supporting the septic was broken. And at that time, they had found that there were small contaminants in there, and so.
Was it coliform bacteria?
Is that what they had said it was, one of the bacteria? I'm thinking that it was, but I think at that time it was the use of, the inappropriate use of the brook for means of defecating. And so it was a situation I wasn't aware of until the individual moved out of the property, but which had prompted me to have it tested.
Yeah.
And so at that point, I didn't know if it was from a failed septic or it was from alternate options of taking care of it.
All right. Okay. Where are we on this, Beck? We got,
I didn't know if there was anything, I just gave a summary. So, Mark, was there anything else
Yeah.
you wanted to add about the revised plan?
No, we shifted the system to try to maintain stronger setbacks to the wetlands, and it's pretty much in the area that's your front yard. We can't move it any further away from the resource areas without having a greater impact on trees or the on-site well. So under the Rivers Protection Act, it is a grandfathered, so to speak, lot in that, you know, they have a right to repair their septic system, you know, that because it was in existence prior to, I think Rebecca said it was built in '64. So it's actually going to be an improvement over what's there. I mean, that deck is overhanging. It has a footing in the brook that's going to be removed. There is debris, you know, garbage basically that kind of is littered around those two, the crossover culvert that comes from Stallion Hill and along the brook. That's going to be removed, and the bridge as well. So it's actually an improvement over the current situation that's there now.
Mark, is this similar to a Presby system that you're proposing?
Well, it's similar to a Presby, but it's called an Elgin end drain system, and it's similar to it, but it's just utilized on it's considered one that has an advanced treatment. So if we weren't within 100 feet of the well, we could actually lower the footprint of it because of the advanced treatment it provides. But in this case, we can't because we're not over 100 feet from the private water supply well. So it's very similar in an Elgin that it gives you enhanced treatment, but this one is one that you can just works very well. It's a little bit lower profile than a Presby, and it works better when you're kind of in a flatter situation.
anything else, gentlemen? Becky, you want to see if there's anybody in the audience?
Is there anyone on the public line who would like to speak in regards to the notice of intent for 76 Stallion Hill Road, notice of intent, DEP file number 300-1116, or any other comments that you want to add?
I don't have any additional comments, thank you.
We don't have anyone on the line.
Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Just a quick comment. I mean, in your notes,
We didn't have this plan yet.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Right.
you're
Yeah.
okay with this?
Yeah.
Yes, I think they've addressed the comments that we had in regards to the resource areas on the site. balancing where he needs to be concerned with Title V setbacks in regards to the on-site well. And then, obviously, they worked really well to move that out of the 50-foot for our jurisdiction.
Yep.
I guess I would just add, if you were to approve it, I'd have our standard conditions and our standard perpetual conditions. I'd have a condition, it's on the plan, just that the removal of the debris and the structures as shown in the plan must be completed. If they install the system in the winter, they must seed it and cover it with an erosion control blanket. I'm not sure if this is a property they plan on fixing and selling or not. So that way we make sure that that blanket fully covers that while we're not in the growing season, and then seed can germinate within the growing season. And then issuance of a certificate of compliance would have to wait until the site's fully stabilized.
David?
I'm not in favor of the plan. I'm very nervous, as is the young lady who just spoke, because I think that more investigation could be done relative to what system should be put in. For example, should it be an elevated system? For example, should it be some kind of a novel system? But you know that there is a tremendous amount of water that comes down Zion Hill Road. Almost every 2-inch rainstorm, it's like trout water. It's just racing down both sides of the road. And I know that that's going to have an effect over time. And I'm just very nervous about it. And so because of that, I'm going to have to abstain.
Stephen?
Yeah, I guess I'm satisfied with the changes that were made, and so I would
Make a motion to close the public hearing?
Yeah. Stephen Chittister, I make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second.
Seconded by Roy. Any discussion? David? Any more?
David Barnacle, in opposition.
I wasn't asking for a vote, I was just going for more. I'll do the vote,
For
but.
closing the hearing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stephen Chittister in favor?
Roy Bishop in favor?
And Ed Goodwin in favor. All right. So now, Stephen, do you have a motion?
I make a motion to approve DEP file number 300-1116, 76 Stallion Road,
Yep.
notice of intent, replacement of failed septic system with the recommendations made by Becky.
I'll second that.
Second.
Roy Bishop?
One thing, I'm sure you've taken care of this, Mark. Tell me about the old system and the removal of it.
The portion that's within what we call the area of excavation would be removed and replaced with Title V sand and C33 sand. And I just would, if I may, through the chair, just address Dave Barnacle's concern there. This is a system that's considered advanced treatment. So it's a innovative and alternative system. And it is considered one that provides a higher level of treatment than a traditional system. And secondly, it is a raised system, so it's built up out of the ground.
Okay.
Thanks for the clarification, Mark.
You're welcome.
On that, any other discussion? A vote?
David Barnacle opposed.
Stephen?
Stephen Chittister in favor.
Roy Bishop in favor?
Ed Goodwin in favor. So, passes.
So just so you're aware, though,
So you
this
should tell
does
the
have to go
public
to the Board
that
of
it
Health for
passes.
variance approval.
Just said right into the
But I'd
mic.
recommend giving Board of Health a call. I was talking to the agent a little bit today, and he said there could be a concern with like the case liner of your well. I would recommend giving him a call in Board of Health, and you can talk about your concern with the system, and he can go over the Title V with you. Title V is their rules that they work with. And he can talk to you about your well, and maybe when you get that information from Charlton Well, give it to him in maybe an inspection of your well might be warranted, just to make sure that surface water isn't getting in the liner somehow too. All right?
Definitely do that, because sadly, I don't have the comfort level that all of you have, and
Yeah.
I'm sure that if you were in my situation, you'd be doing the same thing.
Definitely. Yep. All right, we are on to,
Umbrella.
Cedar Street,
Yep.
231, 233, 235 Cedar Street, local NOI, continued NRAD, DEP file number 300-1090.
So this is an ANRAD that's been continued, just to refresh your memory.
Yeah.
They have a notice of intent, they have wetland replication and some additional work they have to do that wasn't done as part of a previous file number from back in the 80s, where the wetland was to remain as a bordering vegetated wetland. It didn't, someone did some work, and they're working to fix that. So this ANRAD, issuance of the ORAD has been continued to allow them to do that replication work, get the new wetland line, which hasn't been done to date. I did receive a written request for an extension on that, because they haven't been able to start that work. So, he asked for continuation to our next meeting, which is January 6th. I did reply and asked if he thought that was realistic or not, or if it really needed to be continued out a bit, because it is winter now, we're not gonna be planting
Yeah.
a replication area. I haven't heard back, so the request is for this meeting. I think that give the 30-day extension for this, and if they haven't had it done and get the engineered plan in, then we look at pushing this out to spring so they can complete that work. It doesn't make sense to keep continuing it every few weeks or so.
Okay. Any comments?
I'm okay with that, yeah.
I'm in favor of stopping the yo-yo. If the scenario that you just painted is a very accurate scenario, so why give them a continuation until January? It's only going to snow and freeze. It isn't going to make it any easier to get
Yeah.
that work done.
Well, I asked,
So
and I
let's-
don't know, I didn't hear back, I don't know how much work they got done. So if they were able to get a lot of work done, and we do have some warm weather and they can finish, I don't know what it is, maybe they just need the engineer to go out and survey the plan, survey what was installed, I mean.
Let's put it into
if-
February so that we
Yeah.
don't have to mess with it anymore.
Well, we don't have them on the line, so at this point, I'd say give this one more continuation, and then if they don't have the work done and we're in the middle of winter, then we're pushing it out to spring.
Well, I think David's completely correct. I don't know how we can, we're not gonna get any result before spring.
Well, no, we're not.
To Becky's point, because she hasn't heard anything, we don't know if they actually completed the work and all they need to do is, finish the plans of what
Right.
was done.
Okay.
So I guess I'm of the opinion that they better respond to us by the next meeting with something so that we know what the heck's going on. If they don't, then,
Springtime.
or we deny, whatever, at the next meeting. But yeah, I want to hear from them. I want to know what's going on.
Yeah, I did ask them to elaborate on that, because I did have a pre-construction meeting with them, and they were to start a few months ago, and I know there was an initial delay, and they gave us information about that. I just don't, like I said, I don't know where they're at this point.
Did they specifically requested the January 6th meeting to be continued to? Is that?
Yeah, he asked to be
Correct.
continued out for about 30 days, which is our next meeting, so.
And did he make any promises to what was going to be provided for that meeting?
I asked for some additional information. I just got the email yesterday, so
Okay.
I didn't hear back yet,
All right,
so.
thank you, Becky.
Welcome.
When did you hear from them?
I believe I got the email yesterday.
Oh, okay.
Or it might have been on Friday after I sent it out to them. I don't remember the,
I misread then or misinterpreted the information that you had given us, because I thought you had not heard from them at all.
correct. When I did the detailed agenda, I had not heard from them, but when the detailed agenda got sent out, I then heard from them, as I do most people at that point.
Right.
So,
All right.
All right, so you're going to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we give them an extension until January 6th.
Have a second?
Stephen Chittister,
Well, wait,
second.
I'm not
Oh,
done with the motion
sorry.
yet, Mr. Chairman, because I think that we should also put the caveat on there. If we don't have specific information on January 6th, I think that we should close the public hearing.
We'll vote on that at the time.
yeah. I would just add that this
Can't
is,
vote on it now.
yeah, this is a unique situation, I guess I would add, that they filed an ANRAD and all that old uncompleted work was uncovered. And then they had to file this notice of intent, right? So it's not like, you know, we're waiting on additional information in the form of a peer review or something like that. It's a little unique, and now we're out winter, but, right, I agree. If we're not gonna
waiting for
have
additional
anything.
information.
Yeah.
We're waiting for the rest of the ANRAD to be completed. That's additional information. I'll accede to your wishes. I'll make a motion that we continue this public hearing to January 6, 2022.
Stephen Chittister, I second that. I think you did.
Discussion? All in favor?
David Barnacle in favor.
Were you going to say something, Rob?
Stephen Chittister in favor?
Roy Bishop in favor?
Ed Goodwin in favor. Okay. I would say to you, Becky, that you should, David's right, in the future, when somebody gives you an answer like that, you have to, if it's the middle of winter, it can't be January 6th for an answer.
I agree.
Snow and ice.
All right, what are we up to here now?
Last one.
What do you think, Roy?
I'll go with item 12, 180
Okay.
Great Neck Road.
180 Breakneck Road and 16 Cross Street. We don't have a DEP file number for this?
Oh, we got one today. So we do have, online, we do have Chris Wagner on here for us. We did receive a DEP file number today. Where did I put that?
I'm going to guess it's 1120.
You got it. There-
3 ones.
Which, this has been a while that this one's been out without a file number. So the one comment that DEP did have for this was that they noted that there's 2 perennial streams on the site which weren't shown or asked for as resource area approval as part of the ANRAD. And so they did comment on that. I don't know where I put that.
Well, and we had the comment that they didn't have the riverfront delineated on the plan originally, too.
Yeah, we did have that.
So,
Yeah, so what did they say? Yep, perennial streams are present within wetlands 1 and 17. Will the perennials status of these streams be confirmed as part of the ANRAD? If so, DEP recommends that riverfront area be included in section B of the ANRAD form. So, just to go over quickly, just a summary, this ANRAD's been continued for a few meetings. Our first meeting, we opened it under the Wetlands Protection Act. We had to continue it under the local bylaw because the abutter notifications hadn't been provided correctly. They did do that. We did open that public hearing at the second meeting that this was continued to, which I believe was our beginning of November meeting. November, I have it here for the minutes, don't I, on this?
November 18th?
I think it was November 2nd. We had November 2nd
Oh, we
and
voted.
November 16th. At that time, the project team asked for a continuation, so at that point, we were waiting to open the second public hearing. What we had discussed previously was wanting to request a peer review of the wetland delineation that we had put on hold.
Yep.
So they've asked for a continuation from that second meeting to the November 16th. At that meeting, again, asked for a continuation. We did ask representatives to come on tonight because they did send an email asking for another continuation. Why the need for the continuation is, my recommendation would be that the board should vote if the board still wants a peer review of this, if this is something that's still going to move forward or not, and ask for that additional information so we can keep this process moving forward.
Yep.
Chris, is there anything you want to add?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep, we
Yep,
can hear
how
you.
you doing, Chris?
Oh, great. I'm all right. How are you?
Good.
I didn't have my iPad charged up, so I couldn't find
So
my
you couldn't
way
make
to
it out
the
here,
to the
huh?
town hall. Yeah, exactly. So I'm coming to you from my house. But, so I think Becky summed it up well. My knowledge of the current situation is that, as you know, the equestrian center was voted down at town meeting. So the applicant is basically looking at their options for, how they're going to move forward on this site. And so that's sort of why they're asking for the additional continuance. I think kind of piggybacking on the previous conversation from the previous item on the agenda, I think it's pretty obvious that if they do decide to move forward on this, then there's going to need to be a peer review, and we're going to be into the winter, so it's going to be difficult to do that in the spring. But I think it would be worthwhile to, as Becky said, get that process in place. And potentially moving so that, when it's appropriate to do that peer review and finish the review and vote on the ANRAD, we're well positioned to do that. But at this point, the applicant isn't 100% sure where they're at with the property. So that's why they're asking for this additional continuance.
Chris, can you tell me, I'm reading that the applicant is Leon, Doris, Edward, Roger, George, Madeline, and Paul.
Well, that's the property owner.
That's the
Correct.
property owner, right?
Yep.
Correct.
That is not complete.
Applicant is, are you looking at our agenda, Ed?
Yeah.
I think it's the property owners on the ANRAD application
Okay.
does cover those two parcels.
Covers.
I just don't know if, it got cut off on here because, it's got 180 Breakneck Road.
'Cause
It's got the two things, 16 Cross Street, which is Breakneck Ridge,
Yeah.
and then 180 is the, it goes further on their application. I think Erin just kind of summarized it there.
So it has the other applicants on there to get to 300 acres?
It has just the two properties. It has, the ANRAD has two properties they're asking for, 16 Cross Street and 180 Breakneck Road as the property owners. The applicant is Sturbridge Equine and Agricultural Property LLC.
So how would the applicant feel about a continuation until the first Thursday in March?
Chris?
Well,
What are you looking at? When would you like this to be continued until?
If we could do it until, I guess there's two options. One is we can continue it now until March, but the other option would be to continue it until either the next hearing or the January 6th hearing, and that way at least sort of get some some finality, some closure on moving forward and on whether or not we're going to move forward with the peer review, and we could vote on that at that time. And like, as Becky said, at least sort of keep that process moving with the knowledge that we're not going to be able to do a thorough and proper review, especially if there's snow on the ground, or if conditions are not conducive to a peer review at that time.
Right. That's my suggestion about the first meeting date in March. You know as well as we know that in this Christmas season, regardless of your affiliation, not a heck of a lot is going to get accomplished relative to that property or to the decisions thereto. And so I'm just trying to be realistic so that time doesn't get thrown around crazily.
Yeah, I would just add that, at some point, I would recommend that you do take action and vote to request the additional information. That is kind of the next step. There is a process within the town to do a contract, and this is a large site. So I think it's going to take more time than normal to get proposals in. I have to put a request out and get proposals in. This is a big site, and that usually takes time, especially with the holidays. So I would recommend voting to require the peer review, the additional information. We continue this out maybe to the January 27th meeting. That way we can get proposals in You can vote on selecting a
From
peer review.
peer review?
Yeah. You can-
Chris, have you been out on the site since you were out there with me?
I have not, no.
Okay, no.
Okay, that's fine, however you want to move
I mean,
forward.
why are we going, looking for peer reviews?
Well, because if you
It
need,
stopped, right, Chris? You guys, you haven't got a decision, you're going to get a decision, and you're going to come back to us with it. Right.
Right, but as Becky is saying, I think, if it would be, while the winter, knowing that we're not going to be going out there into the field with a peer reviewer, it would be, we could use the time over the winter months to sort of get that set up.
Okay, then how about a continuation until the first Thursday in February?
well.
I don't want to have a continuation to January, and the first week in January, and then have a continuation to the third week in January, and then have one to the first week in February, and
Well, hang on.
So the next meeting dates we have are Thursday, January 6th, Thursday, January 27th, Tuesday, February 15th.
Tuesday, February what?
15th. Those are the next 3 meetings that we have. It seems there's
And I think we'd be fine with any of those. I do see with the point of that's being made of not wanting to just keep postponing to each next hearing. So if we want to pick a date certain, later in January or in February, as long as that gives the commission and Becky enough time to sort of, get that mechanism in place so that we're ready to review in the spring, I think that would work out well.
I don't feel that this committee, the rest of them will speak to you too, should be working towards putting something in place that we don't know what is.
I'm sorry, I don't
If you move forward with the
understand.
project, you went away with assignments as to doing you were going to do further delineations. There were a number of things that you had on your docket to do in moving forward on the project. You said to me, and that you haven't done anything since then. And you want us to go out and find people to,
No, this would be, sorry, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that at the whatever hearing we pick, let's say for the sake of argument that we pick January 27th, if we were to continue to January 27th, it would be at that point that we would know, we would basically come back with the additional information. We could then sort of move forward at that time. I'm just saying we would leave ourselves enough time after that in order to be ready to look at it with a peer reviewer in the spring.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we continue this public hearing until our meeting January 27th of 2022.
Stephen Chittister, I second that.
Great. Anything else, Chris?
Nope, that's sounds about right.
Discussion, anyone?
David Barnacle in favor.
Stephen Chittister in favor.
Roy Bishop in favor?
Ed Goodwin in favor. 27th of February.
January.
That's right. I thought we were going for Valentine's Day.
Chris, that really was a slip of the tongue. That was not deliberate on his part.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
All right, thank you all.
Have a nice holiday.
Have a good night.
Take care.
You too.
All right, so we've gone through everything, just a couple quick things to update you on. Heinz and Leadmine, our building removal project, they pulled out today, so both of those are complete. They had to, they kind of mucked up some areas with that warm weather we had, and the ground wasn't frozen. They seeded and strawed everything, especially on OSV's property. We'll have to check it in the spring. But buildings are down. I was out there yesterday. Everything looks great. So, like I said, small things like that were seeded, and hopefully, we can have some germination.
If it's not to our satisfaction, do we get to have them come back and fix it?
Well, yes, we'll do, we'll hold back a portion of the funds.
Good.
Until the spring and have that looked at then, so. But otherwise, everything is good, glad that's done. Winter tree scavenger hunt, I'm just gonna pull up, because Erin will yell at me if I don't. As you know, we do the winter tree scavenger hunt, town staff, other people, this is the last meeting in the community, decorate trees on Hines, those have been done. We encourage families, young children to go out there, look for the trees. There's different themed ones for, oh, I don't want that, that's not what I want screen. So I just wanted to put the flyer up if anyone's, you know, at home watching the meeting here and is interested. It is posted on Facebook and the town website. It's running through January. At the second January meeting, we'll pull names from a hat and give kids awards who send in their photographs that they found the trees. We did our conservation tree. We actually did endangered species that are known or were known to be found in Sturbridge on one side of an ornament. On the back, we did a QR code, so you can scan it with your phone. It goes right to the fact sheets on natural heritage pages, so people can learn about them. So we did a couple different things on there, and we had some kids help us do it. Try to make it, you know, interesting and educational for them at the same time. So we encourage people to go out and find them, participate. Last year, awards we gave, we had, you know, Ranger Rick magazines, things of that nature. We're running out of birdhouses, but we're still giving some of those out. We did binoculars, things like that, so.
If we're running out of birdhouses, is it time to put the word out to the Boy Scouts so we could use another batch? 'Cause that's where
I don't
they-
think those came from the Boy Scouts. These ones were.
Yes, they did.
They did? Oh, okay.
We had a
They didn't make them.
we had a member of the Conservation Commission who was a Boy Scout leader previously, and he went back to the troop that he had had before and convinced them that they should make some. We thought they were making 10. They ended up bringing like 24.
Oh, so yeah, these ones have tags on them too, so there might be a combination of ones we had, but we do need
Oh.
some new ones.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that there was a next step to that.
Yeah, just so you're aware, the Shattuck Road forest cutting plans that we have, they did restart that. I might have told you that at the last meeting.
Yeah.
I got an email yesterday from Hull Forestry. They're done with the Sajak, I always say it wrong.
Yeah, Sajak.
Sajak property, and they're moving on to Piappi's to do that. So I did ask him if he could send a picture of the temporary crossing that was installed over that stream, and then reminded him too of the extra setbacks, the no-touch setbacks we had because there were some vernal pools over there. So I did ask for a picture of that. DOT update with Cedar Lake. I did correspond with them more. They gave me some more information, more detailed summary of the work they're going to do out there and what's been done. They have had their contractor go out there. Did remove a lot of the materials that we had asked for. Some of the material in the swale they couldn't get out. They'll have to go back out there. I think it was frozen at the time when they went out. Probably need a vacuum truck too. Couldn't get an erosion control out of the lake because it was frozen in place. But any of the things, some of the maintenance things that they didn't complete, DOT will work on that, and he's gonna give me an update soon. I am meeting with Raoul and Jim of the Lake Association on Thursday. I'm gonna walk that quickly with them. So just, that's an update on that. Just so you're aware, I did send a letter to 508 International asking for an update on their enforcement order, letting them know that they were not in compliance with it because they were supposed to do the wetland restoration on site. We haven't heard from them. I did say that I was going to add it to our January 6th meeting and ask for information for that meeting a week in advance. So I will put it on the agenda and see if we get anything from them. If not, you know, if they don't work to completing that enforcement order, the commission will have to discuss next steps of that. Just so you're aware, I did send an email to the representatives of the Lake Association that are on Slack. I did give kind of a detailed summary I did today about Chapter 91 requirements, because that is something that I've been talking about, and DEP's been commenting a lot in their, when they issue their file numbers and comments, that there's that obligation on the Great Ponds, when you're working in a Great Pond, to get a Chapter 91 license. So I did include a good summary for them and ask them to share that with their Lake Association members in the link on that, because that's something, because they don't own the pond, when they do that work, they do need that permit before we can issue our permit. We have to issue our permit for them, but they need to have that consent before they start. So I did inform them that that will be a mandatory condition moving forward too for those projects, shoreline projects, et cetera, or they'll need a negative determination from the waterways program saying that they don't need a Chapter 91 license. So just to make them aware, because it's something that we need to start adding in there and that DEP's asked for. What else? 9 Holland Road, I did go back and ask them again for an update for that material, and I think I kind of missed it in the first email, but when CMG is the one who did that work out there, they didn't actually do the work for the property owner, it was for the potential purchaser.
Yeah.
And CMG does not own the information, the property owner does not have the information, from my understanding. It's ownership by the potential purchaser, so they can't give it to us, and Mr. Kowalski, I'd asked him for it, and he said they don't have it. So that's the update on that.
Does that sound like dodgeball?
Wait a minute. Now, isn't that part of an order of conditions that we gave them?
Yeah.
No,
They didn't,
No, I don't think so.
No?
no.
We asked, when we saw the monitoring wells on site, we asked for information, and that's what kind of started the whole
Glenn said
process.
he would get it for us, right?
He did, but it sounds like, I mean, it sounds legitimate that what they're saying, it could be true, so.
Yeah.
But it's highly suspicious to me that, that information is not being shared by anybody. I don't know.
Good news, everybody shares.
Yeah, yeah, I'm not sure what we
Yeah.
can do about it.
Well, the person who has the rights, who owns it, might share it, I don't know.
So do we know, because so we haven't actually asked the person that owns the rights to the
Well,
monitoring
they
well
didn't
data?
say the person's name, but I could do some research and try to figure that out. It might be the person who had that concept plan before that presented it to the board, I don't know. I can look into it some more.
I would like, if you don't mind,
Yep.
I know it's extra work for you, but I would like to see that data if it's available, so.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll look into that. Last thing, just so you're aware, they've just finished installing all the new camera equipment across the street in the center office building. Roy, we used to meet over there.
Yeah.
So at some point, I'm working with IT, it might not be our next meeting, just because they might not know if they're ready. I don't know, I didn't talk to them today, and I know they were kind of wrapping up and testing it or whatnot. If it's our next meeting or our meeting after that, we'll be over there, but I'll let you know.
Good.
It's, to be safe, I'm gonna assume maybe the end of January, only because we need to know at least 3 weeks in advance, because we need to change everything, our agenda, our legal ads, our application packages. There's a lot that we'll need to do with the holiday. I just don't see it being realistic that even if they were ready, we might not be ready, because we need to be ready like next week. So, I'll let you know. And another thing we'll have to think about too, moving forward,
Yeah.
is doing the hybrid meetings, because once we move over there too, we'll have to coordinate all of that. So, at least for the next meeting, I think, like I said, we'll be here, but then we gotta talk about still offering the hybrid option too.
Yeah.
That's it. Don't forget, the next meeting's on a Thursday. I'll make sure I remind you.
One piece of new business, which is really old business, it's before Becky's time. Vinton Road, I believe, is the road that goes between, goes down to Holland Road, and from Holland Road all the way over to
Stallion Hill,
Stallion Hill Road.
yeah.
Well, not Stallion Hill, but the
Yeah.
road off of Stallion Hill.
Lead mine?
Lead mine. On Vinton Road, when you go down Stallion Hill Road, when you go down Lead Mine Road, and you turn right onto Vinton Road,
Yeah.
all the property on the left-hand side is under the care, custody, and control of this commission.
Some of the property, huh?
And at one time, 2010, 2008,
Yeah.
2010, something like that, we had a forest cutting plan going. And then the economy went, and so the forester said, we're not going to do the forest cutting plan because you can't make any money on it. So we let it go. I never thought that we were going to let it go for 10 years, but we did. This is an opportunity to improve the property. What we have to do is to reacquaint ourselves with a forester
Yeah.
and have him go out and take a look at it and see what it's worth, to open it up so that more new trees can come in and populate some of the area. It did get whacked a little bit by, because it has an awful lot of hemlock. It did get whacked by,
It's 15 acres, right?
yes.
This is on Vinton Road, off of Vinton Road?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's on Vinton Road, and it's just before the high-tension lines come across,
yeah.
if I remember correctly.
It's the left-hand side going down,
Left-hand side,
yeah.
yeah. But all of a sudden, it dropped off of everybody's radar
But is logging up now?
because of the cost of lumber, Edward? You asked that question?
Well, yeah, but there was a whole year where they weren't processing lumber, so they must have a glut of it in Canada that they have to process.
Well, they might have it in Canada. I'm not sure they have it in the States.
Well, I don't know anything about it, don't get me wrong.
But even if it isn't, even if all you're going to do is chip it up and send it to Springfield for energy use, it's better to thin the trees so that you can have a healthier stock than it is to leave the trees just grow and never get any girth to them and have 3/4 of their limbs bare because of crowding.
What was the last chipping site you were on?
About 4 years ago, Ladd Road.
Yeah, well, that's logging site, right?
Yeah.
Chipping sites now, it's different. It's like mowing a lawn with a big, giant machine.
Oh, yeah, I know that.
Yeah.
That's exactly what they did on Ladd Road,
Yeah, did they?
on the Jablonski side of Ladd Road.
Yeah.
And
Well, you look at it.
they took 30 truckloads of chips away.
You done?
Yeah, that was my new old business.
I got some new old business, too. Back when Stephen was a boy, the selectmen added 2 associate members to the Conservation Commission as a part of, and it went to town meeting and was voted that we would have 2 associate members. And we have it from the state that they've approved the 2 associate members. I can't even read the when we received it, but it's been a while. We've never had an associate member since that was approved. We went from 5 to 7.
No, you had one.
Who?
Me.
No. That was an associate member back on a different program. This is one that they went 5 plus 2. And there's a process involved that if, like, for example, if I was out, they could come in and sit in my place and vote in my place.
Absolutely.
And we haven't had, I've got a resume here from somebody who's very qualified and wanted to become a member. And I sent it to
Jeff.
And Jeff, I don't know what he's done with it, but it can't be much because he's on the way out. It's been some time. And I wanted to just get, I can just let it go?
Don't.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to have, yeah.
Yeah, okay, great. That's what I wanted to hear. Yeah. That's all I wanted, you know.
Roy, are you okay with that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially because of the ability to vote in the absence of one of the members.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a beautiful thing.
yeah,
And especially if he's got the background.
right. Yeah, definitely.
The other thing is that at the discretion of the chair, who is a very discretionary person, that person can participate in conversations relative to sites. So the normal conversation that we all have, that
Oh,
person.
yeah, no, they are a member
Oh, yeah.
except for the vote. And they vote on those things that,
I mean, John Hoffman told me, you're as much a member as anybody else, you just can't vote until that woman leaves. No, and he pointed right to the woman, because she had said she was going to leave in 6 months, and that was like 8 months ago.
who was it? Who was it?
I don't remember the
wasn't
woman's
Donna.
name. No, way before Donna. I mean, we're talking about,
It wasn't Paula Goodwin.
no.
Okay.
Was there any other woman?
What?
Was there any other women on the board besides those 2? I never seen both their names,
A
but
quick question, I can't think of any that were. Probably, but I can't think of who they were.
Are we done?
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
done.
it's your turn. It's your turn.
I'm embarrassed.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to adjourn.
David Barnacle in favor.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Barnacle in favor.
Chittister in favor.
Bishop in favor?
This conference is no longer being recorded.
Have a great Christmas,
Thank you, Becky.
guys.
Christmas.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yep.
Stellar work.